What's going on, everybody? Episode 371 of the Keep Moving Forward podcast coming to you each week. You can find the show on anchor.fm/KMF podcast. Also, the podcast is available on Spotify, iTunes, wherever you get your podcasts. You can find us there. Go give us a like and a comment and a 5-star rate and review. Also, the show is available on YouTube. Go subscribe, youtube.com/@comicanthonyd. Trying to build up that YouTube audience. So please go and subscribe. We'll have the videos available on YouTube as well. As always, the show is brought to you by Buddha Bars. Buddha Bars, from the makers of Skinny Cow Ice Cream, Zen Fran. We're going to try that again. It is a live show, but I mess up the intro here, even though I read it each week. This show is brought to you by Buddha Bars. From the creators of Skinny Cow Ice Cream, Zen Food Brand brings to you Buddha Bars. Buddha Bars are 100 calories, 2 grams of fat, and made, here it comes, with real ice cream. Many of these low-cal they call themselves ice cream, but it's not ice cream. They use cheap ingredients and can't even be called ice cream. But Buddha Bars are real ice cream in a better for you category. Go give them a follow on Instagram, Buddha Bars _ice cream. They're making their ways to the shelves in Long Island and New Jersey and the metro area, the metro New York area. Go to zenfoodbrands.com and see where they are in your area. Go to the store if they're not there and demand that your location bring in Buddha Bars. Low-fat calorie ice cream now rolling into the metro New York area, Long Island, and New Jersey. Like I said, this is a low-calorie, low-fat option that is made with real ice cream. Not many can say that. I've had these bars. They're absolutely delicious. Go check them out. It's going to be the treat of the summer, Buddha Bars. Go give them a follow on Instagram, like I said. Buddha Bars _ice cream. And for all other information as far as store locations, zenfoodbrands.com. My good friend John Ziegler, his comedy special is available on YouTube. It's called John Ziegler Getting My Affairs in Order. Go to youtube.com, search out John Ziegler Getting My Affairs in Order. And then when you're done, go give him a follow on Instagram and let him know how much you like the special. Let him know I sent you, so it seems like I got a little reach. Go check it out. So it looks like we'll be doing the show on Wednesdays for a while. I kind of like breaking up the middle of the week and just changing things up a bit. We'll see. We can always move things back. And saying there's a whole crew here. It's me. And this is what we're doing for now. So Wednesdays is the beginning of the recording of the show until further notice or any playoffs or anything like that. So sorry for people who were expecting the show to drop on Monday night. It's going to be Wednesday nights now. But it's the same show. We're not changing anything. Still me, spewing my miserable, magical, all the good stuff. So, still going. It's getting hot here in New York. Today, I was outside recording a long-form Tony Soprano summer lunch video that will be on my YouTube page. I'm going to try to edit some of it tonight, but I don't think I'm going to get it done. I'll probably have it done this weekend. But yeah, it's getting to be summer, and it's New York. It's so funny how it was here. It was like miserable. It was cold last week. It just wasn't getting warm enough. Then all of a sudden, bam! It's 80 degrees, and starting to feel it. I got to put my air conditioning in one of these nights because it's gonna be like 80 something tomorrow as well, and it's hot in here now. So maybe I'll do it after the show. I probably won't, and I'll probably just suffer through the night. I'll probably do it this weekend, but I have the fan going before. It was pretty comfortable. I passed out for a little bit, so I could definitely sleep in it. That's never a deterrent. Always getting that Z's in. But it is a new month. It's June. And this is something I wanted to talk about. June is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. And I think this is such an important topic and something that should be talked about is men's mental health. You just read through the stats and, I couldn't believe some of the things I was reading that, 3 times as many men as women die by suicide. I had no idea about that. Men are wrongly taught at a young age expressing emotion is weak. It's not true. It's okay to show emotion. It's okay to express how you feel. Men age 40 to 49 have the highest suicide rates. Men report lower levels of life satisfaction than women. Men are less likely to seek medical help than women. I mean, to me, that's crazy. But it all goes back to the whole thing we'll talk about at the end of this. Got a couple people on Instagram saying hello. Maduro Melly. Hey, Melly, how you doing? Hope you're having a good evening. I heard those numbers and I just couldn't believe what I was reading. And we'll go on here and then we'll talk about it more. These numbers too are just unbelievable. 525,000 men every year, 10,096 men per week, 1,442 men every day, 60 men every hour, and 1 man every 60 seconds die by suicide. That's just not acceptable. We got to do something about that. We got to do better. And we'll talk about how to try to do that after this. But listen, men cry. As you've seen on this podcast, I've cried many times. And it's okay. It's okay to let it out. It's okay to have emotions. It's okay to feel those feels. Men have trauma. Again, I'm glad I have an outlet here that I've talked about this and I can continue to talk about it. Men self-harm. Men have eating disorders. I definitely can put myself into that category. Men go to therapy. Not enough, but they do go. Men have body image issues. Again, put myself into that category. Men get abused. Men feel things. Men need loving care, and men deserve support. It's not unmanly to struggle. Check in on the men in your life. A shout out to all the men suffering with their mental health, with no one to turn to, and as a society has taught men to mask their emotions. We need to encourage men to speak up, not man up. That term man up it's out the window. It's not speak up. Talking saves lives. So we're going to replace man up with speak up. We are taught from an early age, man up, deal with it. And, you think about your grandparents, or you think about maybe some of your fathers, your great grandparents, they just dealt with it. Some of these guys who went to war and God knows what they went through or saw and just, use that term man up, came home, went to work, raised a family. But again, and how many of these people, carried trauma with them that affected the way they dealt with their children, that, and then in turn dealt with the way those people dealt with their children, and so on and so on, and generational trauma. And we were talking about this on Saturday at the Cigar Lounge. And I'm glad we did. Listen, it's okay for guys to sit around and talk about, their mental health and things that bother them and, get into the feels. Because for so long it was, considered taboo. And you were just a man, you shut up, you went to work and you dealt with it. But then again, how many guys turn to drugs, alcohol, and eventually, you see those numbers ends in suicide. You feel like you have no way out and you're ashamed to talk to somebody, you're ashamed to cry. That can't be the case. I've said it many times on here. If anybody's in a point where they feel they have nobody to turn to, you could message me. This podcast is a safe space. It's an open forum. But get help. Talk to a professional. There's no shame in it. There's absolutely zero shame in it. And I'm saying that as somebody who probably should talk to a professional. I'm not perfect, but I've learned over the years to get my feelings out, to communicate, and to, and if it's on this podcast, just get it out, say it, no matter what the consequences are, the outcome, or what it does to me. If it makes me cry, if it makes me sad, it's better to feel the feels and get it out than bury it deep down inside. And we were talking about this Saturday at the lounge, and I don't know how we got into it, but we started talking about, you know, relationships and trauma and stuff like that. And I talked about two of probably the most trauma filled relationships I had, two that had the biggest impact on me as an adult in, I guess, a negative way, or that caused me the most trauma. And, it's I haven't talked about some of these things, things I talked about in a long time, and just it brought it almost like out again. And feeling those feels again was not fun. And Sunday, I was definitely a little mushad because talking about it, I was like going through it again, which is good because that meant I still had some stuff in the basement I had to get out. And talking about my second engagement and everything that went on there, and how I felt and how I was made to feel like it was my fault, and then another one that I was manipulated, and it was just like, someone just kept me close for their own, like, their own needs, to pump them up, to make them feel good. This is all stuff that I hadn't thought about in a while, but obviously there was still some residuals. And I wish more men would sit around and talk about this stuff and get it out. And I'm guilty too because I get around guys, you love to talk about sports and women and all this stuff, but you know what? If something's bothering you, talk about it. And I'm glad this month we're bringing all this into the forefront and, really tackling it and dealing with it. There's too many good guys out there, too many good men that are suffering and they don't have to be. We talk about toxic masculinity and things like that. I think part of that, the negative side of it is, listen, I'm all for men being men and liking the things that men like and acting like men. But to me, like I said, there's nothing more manly or acting like a man than actually dealing with these issues and not pushing them down. And like the toxic part is not dealing with it and acting like everything's okay when it's not. I did that for so long. I was in a situation, a couple of situations where I had no self-esteem, hardly any self-worth, and just felt like I was just a beaten man. And I stayed in those situations because I felt like I deserved it and that there was no way out, and I was lucky to be in it. Like, how could this person wanna this person who I think is, uh, out kicking my coverage wanna be with me? When you look at it and you realize they were out kicking their coverage to be with you because of the person you are and the person and the things that you do. And going people making me feel crazy about how I felt, like my feelings weren't valid, like I was wrong, and telling other people that it wasn't what it was and this and that, and just like going back, I was reading the receipts again to my friends. I was getting all fired up again, and you know what? I was glad. I know these guys that I opened up to, known them for a while, and they made it a safe space, and I think that's what more guys should do. There's nothing taboo about that. You know, there's nothing unmanly about it. Guys should be able to sit around and talk about their feelings if they want. And, I woke up Sunday, I was feeling like some sort of way, a little mushad, just dealing with the after effects of going through those stories and kind of reliving them again and having those sense memory feelings. And I'm not ashamed to say I cried. I got overwhelming and I cried. I felt better afterwards. I got up, went to my brother's house. I had a good Sunday with the family. And it's funny. I talk about the kids now getting older, and especially my older nephew Lucas. He's going to be 12 next month. He's going to junior high in September, and he's like too cool for school now. He's a preteen. You know, it's it's not like when they were kids and they would just Uncle Cheese would come over and they're fighting who's going to climb on top of Uncle Cheese and sit on my lap and you know watch videos. We were talking about that. And like I said, I showed Lucas a video of him like jumping from the coffee table onto me. And I said, you would sit here for like hours and watch videos, like faces, like they would call, if you on Snapchat, they have the different face filters, like the weird faces. They were called faces. Like, can we do faces? And the small potato videos. So I showed them the small potato videos, and so first of all, first I was trying to get a hug from the kids. So Lydia gave me a hug. Rocco gave me a hug. I said, Lucas, come here. I gotta tell you a secret. And he knew what I was doing. And I gave him a hug and I gave him a kiss on the head. And he kind of hung around. He was sitting on the arm of the couch and we were watching Small Potatoes. I said, you guys just like huddle around. And they all did. They all climbed over on Uncle Cheese. And we took a picture. I posted it on my Instagram and I showed like Uncle Cheese 2025 versus 2019. And it was just a good feeling. I guess those kids knew their uncle needed a little something extra that day. Getting choked up now just thinking about it. Because those kids are they mean the world to me. And as you get older, as the kids get older, it's not the same when they were little babies and you miss that. Um, but they help their uncle out. I don't know if they know it or not. And I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm getting a little choked up now just thinking about it. Talking about men's mental health and crying. Here I go. But you can get me talking about the kids long enough, and it'll happen. Uh, as an uncle, a single uncle with no kids, my nephews and my niece, I love them more than, I love them as much as you can love a kid that's not your own. And, just seeing them makes me happy. And having that moment where they were, like the old days, sitting in Uncle Cheese, watching the video, it was just nostalgic and it made me feel good. And it's exactly what I needed. And the kids, I guess they sensed it. And I've been thinking about it all week because I haven't had that, in a while. and it's nice to know, it's like, listen, I remember being that age, you want to be out with your friends, not the biggest deal, your uncle's over. And then you get older, you get into your late teens, your 20s, and then you realize family, how important family is, and you come back to it a little bit. But yeah, it was definitely a good week to practice some of the things I preach about talking and getting feelings out and dealing with it. Because I could have just taken those feelings, I could have just shoved them right down and not dealt with them, and then felt worse all week. But instead, I felt the feels, I dealt with it, and I feel better now. Honestly, it doesn't bother me right now what I talked about. But one thing I guess I joked around one of the guys, like, I'm sorry I gave you all my miserable and magical. And they're like, nah, don't worry about it. Like, yeah, but that's the thing we do though, because we try to make a joke out of it and try to make something funny because we're talking about emotions, we're talking about feelings, but it's okay, it's normal. So listen, check in on the men in your life. If you feel like you haven't heard somebody in a while, if you haven't heard somebody from, can't even talk now. I'm just saying, check in on the men in your life. If you haven't heard from somebody in a while and your gut's telling you to check in, or just check in regardless. You never know what that message or phone call is going to do to somebody or for somebody. Like my nephews and my niece, I don't think they even realize what they did for me that day. And it meant the world. I don't think my friends realized letting me sit there and open up and talk what that meant. So check in on the men in your life. Make sure that they're okay. Make sure that you let them know that they have somebody to talk to. They're not alone. That it's okay to feel all these emotions, to feel the feels. It's okay to be. Listen, no one's gonna have a good day every day. That's impossible. You're gonna have bad days. You're gonna have good days. But on the bad days or when things are getting you in the feels, make sure that people know that there is a safe place they could go to have a conversation if needed. And like everybody else, I'm somebody who's got to practice more what he preaches. I tend to just drift off into my own world, and you see certain posts on Instagram and Facebook and things like that, and you know what? I'm gonna be a guy that reaches out a little more, and just to let people know that if you need a safe space, I'm here. We can have a conversation if you want. If not, even just it, and even if it's not about the feelings, you talk to somebody, you joke around, you make them laugh for the day. You don't even know how the positive effects that could have for them. My best friend Nick, me and him, will just send the stupidest things to each other, and it makes me laugh and it makes me feel good. Like the other day, I sent him a voice message of Andre the Giant. I was doing Andre the Giant's voice. I just wrote, "Get the hams off him shoulders." Like when when Andre turned heel, and Hogan had his hands on his shoulders, and he told him to get his hands off his shoulders, but he did it in that ridiculous French accent that he had. And then he just sent me back a gif of Andre opening his eyes wide, and I laughed, and it was just, made me feel better. So just it's June. Like I said, June's men's mental health awareness month, but it's not just June. It's every month. It's every day. We could do better. We could be better. Checking on the men in your life. And if you feel like there's no one to turn to, just shoot me a message. Well, we can have a conversation. We can have a little chit chat. I'm not saying you have to tell me every detail of your life or anything, but if you just need somebody to talk to, the doctor's in. So, with that being said, Just take better care of yourselves, guys, and also the people in your life. And we could do a lot of good with just a little bit of effort. That being said, I want to thank everybody for joining us here on the Keep Moving Forward podcast. This has been episode 371. As always, we're played in and out by DemonScar and their song We Rise. Go check it out on iTunes, demonscar.bandcamp.com. Long Island, only one place to go for your deli needs this summer. That's Finn's Deli, 4646 Merrick Road in Massapequa. Tell my brother Mike you heard the plug in the show and to get yourself an Uncle Cheese, the best sandwich out there. Not because it's named after me, because it really is that good. Go check them out, finsdeli.com. The show is brought to you by Buddha Bars. The amazing real ice cream, 100 calories, 2 grams of fat, delicious treat. Buddha Bars _ ice cream on Instagram, zenfoodbrands.com. Once again, thank you so much to everybody who joined us on Instagram Live and listening at home on your podcast listening devices. This has been episode 371. Have an awesome week. I will talk to you later.
Fake news, don't believe the hype. Media is not all lies, just believe